everybody, welcome to the Love Sewing YouTube channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm getting you stopped by ready for some sewing bee chats, which is great. I'm really looking forward to talking to you all about Series 8, Episode 8, which was 1930s week. I absolutely loved it. I hope you did too. I think you will have done. It was a really good episode. Before we get into it, just to say, you found it on YouTube, which is fantastic. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do by hitting the subscribe button so that you can keep up to date with all the content that we're going to be giving out to you. And there's going to be much more on Sewing Bee. Whilst it's still on, we haven't got long left, which is a real shame. We're already at quarter-final stage, but it's going to get even better and even more interesting as it gets tougher now to choose between the bees. So yes, please subscribe. I'm going to be talking about, well, just my own personal opinions on the garments. They are just my own opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. What do you think of what I've got to say? Any comments, please do put them in the chat, put them in the comment box below. I'd love to see what you think of the garments from this episode. So, usually how it works is Kate comes and does the chat. She talks about, she has a little look, looking back at the garments and gives them a score. Kate's having a lovely time on holiday, I hope, and so I'm here to give my opinion this week. It's going to be really hard to score them anything less than full marks, I think, for the challenges that they had in this episode. 1930s, I absolutely love fashion history. I love all the garments that they had to sew in this episode, and they were really tricky. So to have to knock any points off at this stage seems tough, but that's how it works. That's how the show works. You have to eliminate, even when they're all really good. And the first challenge this week, as always, the pattern challenge, and it was a really stunning pair of sailor trousers. When I saw those sailor trousers, I was like, oh, they look just like the Shannon trousers, or well, the trousers that are in the Shannon set. That's a simple sew pattern. This is making me think I want to sew those. They do have those on Craft World, so you should head over to Craft World if you'd like to get that pattern. And if you're a premium member of Craft World, it's free, so you could be sewing them tonight. If you've got some fabric in your stash ready to go that you think would make a lovely pair of sailor's trousers. Also on Craft World, they've got a vintage sewing book that's free to have a look at. So if you're feeling 1930s inspired, head over there. And yeah, I'd love to see any sailor trousers that you sew. That would be fab. Okay, let's talk about the Sewing Bees trousers. So they had, what, 4 hours to sew what is a complicated sew. There's a lot in the construction. 8 buttons, 8 buttonholes, pocket bags, waistband, a bib, so many elements for these trousers. I think they're worth it. They look really good when they're done, but I wouldn't want to sew them in 4 hours. And so yes, I would like to give them all a 5 straight away for completing a complicated sew in 4 hours. I think that deserves a 5 already, but I'm going to have to knock off some points somewhere. They did cause these trousers a lot of pocket panic. There was a lot of confusion over the pockets. I think it's just the bib construction with the pieces underneath is quite new to most of them. And something not the way you're usually used to dealing with pockets, so I can totally see why it caused some panic, and then I totally see why they've chosen this challenge now. I think Patrick said it's the most complicated thing we've given them so far, and it must be quite difficult to week on week keep making it more and more difficult when they've already had some pretty major challenges. So well done, bees, for making these trousers super. Let's get on to having a recap of how they got on. I think all 5 pairs look amazing. I think I pretty much wear all of them, yeah. Okay, so first person was Deborah with her lovely blue pair and some very funky buttons. They look really nice. Unfortunately, the first thing you do notice is that the front of the bib, it doesn't quite line up with the rest of the trouser. It goes over slightly, And oh, they're just pointing out as well that there was a little hole where the pocket meets. I think they look really smart. I think Patrick's right that perhaps the fabric choice made it extra challenging. It was maybe a little bit too heavy, and so she had quite bulky corners, but still a really nice pair of trousers. And they're doing the button test. There's one buttonhole that's slightly off, but they'd close, they do up. They're a functioning pair of trousers. You could wear them without worrying that anything embarrassing was going to happen. And okay, so on the inside, the overlay was the wrong way around. But overall, a really nice pair of trousers. I have to lose some points for the band and the pocket. If it adds up, I suppose I have to go with 3, just so I can save the higher scores for others. But well done, they're lovely. And then Brogans were, I think, a modern take on a vintage style denim pair with lovely flower buttons. I think that the misalignment is slightly more obvious on Brogans, and the buttons. The buttons, unfortunately, one came off and Esme gave it not a very strong tug, and then one of the buttons was sewn all the way through the layers, so unfortunately it becomes an unfunctioning button that you can't put your hand in the pocket, and that she was obviously going to be marked down for that. See, now I think that because of that, this should be a 3, and I probably should have given Deborah a 4. I will always do this, keep changing my mind once I start trying to compare against other people's. It's really tricky. I'd be an awful judge on sewing bee. Okay, Christians. I really like Christian's fabric choice. I think they look really smart. These were the lilac pair, again with really lovely buttons. He did, I don't know if it's cheating or not, but his buttonholes were vertical rather than horizontal, which Esme pointed out. But they still work as a very nice pair of trousers. They do up, they look good. Tiny hole at the bottom of the pocket. I like these. I don't think, I can see why, you know, it's the pattern challenge. You're supposed to be following the pattern, so you should. Okay, so I'll knock off a mark for the pattern, the buttonholes being the wrong way, even though I think in the end it doesn't really matter. But if you're not quite following the pattern, there has to be some marks going somewhere. So a 4 for Christians. And then we have Magnie's stylish blue pair. She always looks so worried, Magnie, and I don't know why. Her sewing is always lovely. I think these look really good. Very smart. I would like to wear these. Everything looks great. So far, I can't see any issues. Oh, there's a small misalignment between the waistband and the trouser front, but that's hidden underneath the fold over. So I think it's a minimal issue. I'm going to say 5. I think they're really, really good. I don't see why not knock any marks off. Annie's green, very smart pair. She did have some issues with the construction, I think, and in the end garment there was some things that weren't true to the pattern, but they still function as a pair of trousers. They're still very wearable. But again, this is the pattern challenge, they're judging you on adhering to the pattern, being able to sew that pattern. But you know, in real life we make changes, don't we, to patterns. We don't always stick to the rules and do it, or not the rules, but the instructions. We sometimes decide to do things slightly differently, and as long as the result you're happy with in the end, great. So it's tricky, isn't it? They're still a great pair of trousers, so I would score them highly for that. But if you're going with the idea of this challenge, which is following the pattern, then you have to lose marks. So I will say 3.5, 4. Oh, let's say 4. I don't want to be mean. Let's go 4. Okay. But well done, guys. They were all such a tricky sew in such a short time. Really impressive. And then transformation challenge, where they get a mere 90 minutes to transform something into a completely different garment. I really liked it this week because I think what they all produced was something very wearable, all of them. They had to take 2 men's shirts or 2 shirts and transform them into a 1930s style blouse. So I thought it was a really good challenge, nothing too obscure, something that I would like to have a go at myself. I love vintage blouses, so I thought it was a really good challenge, and I was really interested to see what they would do, and they all did brilliantly. Okay, so the first one to be judged was, well, they don't know whose it was, but we know that it was Deborah's stunning, I think, leopard print and black and gold with the big frill detail at the front. I think this looks really good. I really like the combination of the two fabrics. I think they work really well together. I think it looks very 1930s. It looks completely wearable. The fact that she has done this and the others have done this in 90 minutes just blows my mind. I think it's absolutely incredible. It looks really glamorous. Oh, I don't think there's anything to fault on this for me personally. This transformation challenge is also scored out of 5. I'm gonna say 5. Oh, Annie's was really, really lovely. Basically, I would wear pretty much all of these blouses. Annie's has the 2 different colours, colour blocked, and she inserted the V to get that sort of really lovely 1930s silhouette. Got the puff sleeves with the, looks like she's interfaced the sleeves to get that volume. There is a small issue that the bow wasn't big enough for Esme, which is, bows are never big enough for Esme, but I think, to be honest, well, probably just it wasn't big enough on this occasion. That would have been nice to see that be much bigger and really make a feature of it. But I don't know how much fabric she had. Did she have enough? You really have to think very carefully when you're doing transformations and you're playing with pre-existing garments. You've only got what's there, so you can't just cut off a bit extra. So perhaps that's why she didn't go bigger with the bow. And then again, perhaps the 90 minutes is the reason why she didn't go bigger with the bow. I'm going to give it a 4. I think there's a lot. Oh, it was hard. It's so hard. Technically, there's a lot in there, so it might not have quite the finish of Deborah's, but I think there was more work involved. No, I'm going to go 5. I'm going 5. Okay, now we have Christian's. His very silky green and lace blouse. This looks really interesting. I really like the lace and the good idea to cinch it in and get to create some shape with the elastic. Looks a little loose, but maybe it's not the made to measure challenge, so that doesn't really matter. I couldn't tell looking at it if he'd used 2 shirts. Maybe I just couldn't see because he's joined them so well. But I thought the challenge was you had to use 2 shirts, so I don't know if he's just taken one and worked on that one, and then maybe the lace is from another one, or if he got that from the haberdashery. But if they're not from 2 shirts, I think I'd have to take a point away for that. But maybe they were. I'm not sure. I will say 4 for Christian. Brogan. If Kate was here, she would be saying, I love it, I love it, I love it. I think Kate would really like this blouse. It's totally pastel-y, it's really fun. I don't know if it's 1930s with the black piping. Unfortunately, maybe let it down a little bit. But, oh, and it's got a bow. Yeah, it's ticking all the boxes for Kate. I think it's a cool blouse, it's a fun blouse, but it doesn't quite hit the brief. So I'm going to say 3. Okay, Manier's. This is my favourite. I'm not going to lie, I think this is stunning. I'm going to tell you now it's a 5. Totally giving it 5. I would love to wear this blouse. I think it's fabulous. I think her blouse was this lilac purple with the orange sort of rust colour, inset V's, beautiful sleeves, finished off with orange ties. It's so sophisticated with lovely elements in it. I think it's really, really nice. I would absolutely wear this, yeah. Okay, I've said it's 5. Shall we move on? Clearly got favourites. Okay, but to all of them, fantastic vintage blouses, or 1930s blouses in 90 minutes. Everyone produced a blouse to be proud of, I think. Super, super, super. I feel like I've not got much left. I've only got one challenge left to talk about, which I think has been my favourite challenge of the entire series so far, because it's dresses, and I like, dresses are my favourite thing. So I'm always really, really happy when the challenge is a dress, and the fact that it's a vintage style dress just makes it all the better for me. Dresses cut on the bias, they really have gone for it on this challenge and making it a real challenge. And again, bias cut dresses, most of them in slippery fabric, 5 hours, 5.5 hours to fit well. Guys, honestly, I think you're all absolutely amazing. Well done. So tricky to do, so difficult. And they all produce stunning dresses up, totally wearable in that time. I think it's absolutely incredible. Deborah, I think, was very brave in choosing this lovely yellow. There's no hiding with this fabric. She was right in knowing that diagonal seam across the front and across the back, that had to be absolutely spot on for where it's placed and the detail that it creates on the dress, and that's where your eye is drawn to. So to sew that on the bias in this time and to get it accurate, she set herself, in this fabric, she set herself a real challenge there. And I believe completely achieved what she set out to do, which was to create a gorgeous 1930s glamorous Hollywood style dress, and all French seamed on top of everything else in a short space of time. Really loved the drape back detail. It was a shame the front stretched out and it doesn't fit quite as well at the top. This challenge is scored out of 10. There's extra elements involved. It's tougher. I would have loved to have given this a 10. If it wasn't for the stretching out, which I can understand why that happened, I would have given it 10. But gotta be tough. So I'm gonna say 9. Lose a point for the fit on the front, unfortunately. But everything else, the hems, French seams, wonderful. I love the back, the drape on the back. Next up is Brogan. I recognise Brogan's pattern. A lovely pink, multi-panelled, very 1930s look dress. There was a lot going on in this dress, a lot to have to deal with, lots of pattern pieces. It looks very, they've styled it very Charleston and it looks great. The fit wasn't quite spot on because the shoulder straps came more down the back, not quite on the top of the shoulders, which has pulled it up a bit, so it didn't quite fit perfectly around the front. And the rolled hem wasn't quite there, which is a shame, it sort of lacks that final finish. But again, not surprising in the time. Again, this is hard to judge. I don't know how they do it because the final finish wasn't as good as some of the others, but it's probably a more complicated construction than some of the others. I don't know. So I suppose you have to go with the garment at the end, and have they hit the brief? Have they achieved a glamorous 1930s dress, and maybe not consider the time and the piece, I don't know, the construction involved, just the end result. So if you're going with just the end result and not considering all the elements, I'm going to say 8 if I gave Deborah a 9. Annie's dress. Should we just say, yeah, go for it? This is a 10, isn't it? There's no reason to it be any less. Really beautiful dress, sort of like Oscar gown in my opinion, and she got the fit just spot on, beautiful. This was slightly, not awkward, but the fact that she had the same pattern as another person in the challenge, it's kind of the equivalent, isn't it, of turning up to a party in the same outfit and who wore it best. You know that the pressure is on a little bit when you've got somebody else wearing the same pattern, and they're going to be, inevitably, they're going to be compared against each other, which is tough. But I can see why they both chose this pattern. It looks super, really glamorous. I love the shawl drape at the back, really nice. Personally for me, I don't think I would have preferred it without the spangly dangly bits off the shoulder, but I can see that they're forming a function of holding up putting the straps together. But Esme loves the dangly bits. Has she finished on the inside? Yeah, all beautifully finished. Fabulous, really, really lovely. So yes, this got Garment of the Week, and yes, I agree, why not, it should do. Okay, and now is my knees, the other version of this pattern, equally beautiful and stunning. Brave choice, I think, with the fabric. It's very light, no hiding with that whatsoever. And then she had to go and present it up against after Annie's flawless ones. Tough, and I really, really like it. I really like the colour. I think the fit is excellent, and I actually prefer the way she finished the shoulders with those little like flower crystal clusters. I think they're really elegant, but she didn't have the same finish as Annie, so the seams weren't finished inside, and a slight misalignment at the back with the zip, which unfortunately is not, it's right down the back of the dress. It's very visible. I think most people who don't sew would think it's absolutely fine. I wouldn't really think anything of it. I think it's just people like ourselves who notice when these things don't quite line up. I still think it's a lovely dress. It's a lovely dress. I feel like I have to knock off some points, so I'll say 8, but I would love to wear it. And then we have Christian's purple lilac velvet, super glam, super lovely dress with the wide sleeves. It fits lovely, but we have to talk about the fact that it doesn't really do what they asked, because this was supposed to be a dress cut on the bias. He made it out of the stretch velvet, so he hasn't got the challenge of the fit. The stretch velvet's going to really help with the fit, and it's gone against slightly what the challenge was. So the result is still stunning, but it's not quite what was asked for. And yeah, I think at the back, where we had the elastic piece, so it drapes beautifully at the back, but then he added an extra bit which just took off a bit of the sort of 1930s aesthetic, unfortunately. It's a lovely dress, I think it's just not quite 1930s, so for that reason I'm going to have to knock off some extra points, so I'll say 7 because it's still a gorgeous dress. And that is all of them. And that's what I think of them, but that's just what I think. What do you think? Did you have a favourite? Do you agree with me? Do you have a completely different favourite? What did you think of this week's episode? I've been raving about it because it's right up my street, but perhaps it's not one of your favourites, and if it's not, which episode have you enjoyed the most? I'd really like to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with who went home? Do you agree with Garment of the Week? Personally, I think the right person went home. It's getting really tough at this stage. I can't wait for the semi-final next week. They're all excellent. Everybody who's left. It's going to be so difficult to send somebody home now. But that, again, it's a competition. I have to remember, that's it. They can't all win. Only one person can win. Such a shame. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you haven't already subscribed and you'd like to see what we think of next week's episode, do subscribe, then you'll get alerted that we are chatting about it, and give us a like if you've enjoyed what we're doing, and I'll hopefully see you soon. Take care. Bye.